Join us for the very first IFL Live at London's Indigo at the O2, Sunday, August the 13th, with me, Kugan Cassius, and some very special guests, Eddie Hearn, Darren Barker, Johnny Fisher, and more. Tickets now on sale. So in the words of Eddie Hearn,
you get up, you dress up, and you fucking show up.
This is COLM McGuigan for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. Delighted to be joined by Stephen Espinoza in Las Vegas, Nevada. Stephen, this event has that big fight feel to it. You know, like thinking back years gone by, Mayweather, Pacquiao. How does this compare?
Look, I'm not sure we'll ever see anything like Mayweather Pacquiao again, but you know, this reflects, you know, the biggest event, you know, short of that. You know, I looked at it, you know, it's crazy. It's 115 degrees out. People are lining up, waiting for a weigh-in. You know, and it just, you know, it really demonstrates the excitement that's around this event, that people are willing to go through that experience, sitting outside from 115 degree heat to see the weigh-in itself, not the fight, but the weigh-in itself. You know, and I got to get it to the fans. You have a lot of devoted fans who are supporting every element of the sport. You know, from the open workout, you know, in the MGM, you know, we packed, you know, the entire room to T-Mobile. You know, I haven't been to that many weigh-ins here at T-Mobile, but it's rare that you see a weigh-in where you've got the stands filled all the way up to the top, to the upper tier. So, I mean, I give it to boxing fans. You know, they have definitely come out and supported. You know, the right fight was made, and they came out and supported it.
This being a huge event, the whole, you know, Eminem, for example, is that going to happen?
I hear the rumor. You know, I've heard the same rumors, and look, it would, if it does happen, it would be something that I think would be really appropriate for the stature of this event. Like, it deserves something like that.
When me and you spoke at Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia, I was, you know, fishing to try and get
the press conference. You wanted the press conference that Saturday, yeah. Right? I remember.
And I was pushing you on it, and you had that little smile on your face. You just gave me that same smile when I asked you about Eminem, so I believe that's definitely going to happen. Am I right?
I'm a bad liar, apparently, right?
In terms of this and this event, obviously everyone's asking about this rematch clause. What can you give us a bit of detail around that?
Sure. You know, it's the loser's option. The period of time after the fight for the loser, you know, we've got all the terms laid out. We didn't want to have any disagreements, so everything's been negotiated in full. If there's a draw, then it's sort of a mutual option. But look, I think, look, it's not an automatic. You know, I don't think anybody's a fan of saying like they're automatically going to do two fights. So it'll be the loser's option. But like personally, I think this is a really close fight. I think it's a close decision. You know, it's the kind of fight that begs for a rematch. So I'm not saying it's guaranteed by any means, but it's definitely something that if it plays out the way we expect, we could see it twice.
What's your prediction on the pay-per-view numbers that this does? Because a lot of people are maybe under the impression that the younger audience that was involved in Ryan and Tank won't really get involved in this fight. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's so much at age. You know, what we did know is that Ryan and Tank started with a huge fan base of people who don't pay attention to boxing at all. And that's a major advantage here. But for this particular fight, you know, what we did is we took the enthusiasm from the boxing fans and tried to spread it outward and expand the base, you know, and get boxing fans talking about it so much that people who don't pay attention normally to boxing started to hear about it. And I think, you know, look, you know, does anybody here have, you know, 9 million Instagram followers? No. But I think you can tell by this arena and by the excitement you felt all week that that's not a necessity to get a big crowd and a successful pay-per-view.
I am sure you've seen, because I've seen you share them, have interviewed Eddie Hearn over the past maybe 6 to 10 weeks, and a lot of my conversations with him was that PBC and Showtime, this is your year. You've performed great in terms of the promotion of events, the standard of events. Obviously, the Canelo deal upped that than this. Eddie said that lights a fire in his belly, and that it gives him, you know, that he wants to do better. Do you feel that same way when you see maybe Matchroom do certain events in the US, or is that not really something that you look at?
No, not really, because you know, if we were the only promoter in town, I would still want to do the biggest and best events. I mean, I get the adrenaline not on, you know, beating some British guy or, you know, some other American promoter, Mexican promoter. The adrenaline I get is from these events themselves. So, this is sort of my reward. Walking into an arena like this makes the last year really of work on this fight worth it. So, sure, when he comes in and says, as we talked about before, your business model sucks, I'm going to take over, you guys aren't going to be able to survive. Sure, that gets, people want to respond, and people have responded, from a competitive place, and I'm no different. But the reality is the reward is the events themselves, is being remembered for great legacy events, not being remembered because, I outcompeted, some guy from England.
Would you be open to working with Eddie Hearn? And the reason I ask that is because of the likes of the Canelo Bivol rematch that everyone wants, including Canelo Alvarez.
Yeah, I got no problem at all with it. Like, there's nothing. I've been sort of puzzled by some of the theories I've heard about why a relationship isn't as good as it once was. I mean, it's very clear. When you come in and say, I'm going to destroy your business, and when you say, oh, you're going out of business repeatedly for the last few years, sure, of course, like, it's not going to be as strong as relationship. And so, but it has nothing to do with making fights. If there's a good fight to make, sure, whether it's Arum, whether it's King, whether it's, Barry Hearn, whether it's Eddie Hearn, it really doesn't matter. We want to make good fights.
In terms of the Canelo deal itself, not looking past Charlo because it's an extremely tough fight for Canelo. Benavidez likely next, and then potentially that Bivol rematch, or what way are you guys thinking about that?
We really haven't had those kinds of conversations yet. It is, it's wide open. It's really Canelo's choice. Like, he's in the driver's seat. He's earned that at this stage of his career. But I think, the great thing is we have 3 or 4 options, and they're all phenomenal options. They're all really good options. So whether it's Andre or Benavidez or Jamal Charlo or somebody moving up like Spence or Crawford, it really doesn't matter. They're all, big fights. I mean, you can talk to 20 different boxing fans. You'll get 20 different ideas of which should be next. But the good thing is, like, they're all good fights. And I think that's why he's over here, because of the range of options. It's not just one good fight, but several.
Final one from me. Obviously, the great run of fights for PBC and Showtime this year. Canelo next up after this. Is there a big one to end the year in December time?
Yeah, there's, look, Tank wants to fight by the end of the year. There's still a lot of discussions around Deontay, a lot of discussions about David Benavidez, so. Who's
a likely opponent for someone like Tank?
It's a good question. We just started talking. I've seen all the same stuff everyone else does. It's Chris Colbert, it's Isaac Cruz. Nothing's been determined yet. Those are 2 guys, obviously, that, could be interesting opponents. But, Tank wants the biggest fights possible. So I don't think there's anything off limits. Not network problems, not promoter problems. He's telling us, go get the biggest fight you can. And that's sort of our marching orders.
Well, Stephen, thank you very much for your time on IFL TV. Really appreciate it.
You got it, bud. Stephen.
Join us for the very first IFL Live at London's Indigo at the O2, Sunday, August the 13th, with me, Kugan Cassius, and some very special guests, Eddie Hearn, Darren Barker, Johnny Fisher, and more. Tickets now on sale. So in the words of Eddie Hearn,
You get up, you dress up, and you fucking show up.